The elevator dumped me onto a dark floor because the lights ran on sensors and I didn't move fast enough to wake them. I walked to my desk, opened my laptop, and heard keys clicking somewhere behind the cubicles. Not my keyboard, not my echo. Real typing, steady, like someone had a deadline. I stopped with my bag still on my shoulder. The floor was supposed to be empty. Late nights happened, sure, but you'd hear the usual stuff. Spotify leaking from earbuds, someone swearing at Excel, a microwave beep. This was just typing in the air vents. I called out once and hated how small my voice sounded. The typing stopped. A chair rolled back. No footsteps followed. Just silence. I shut my laptop again like that would reset reality. I turned my phone flashlight on and started walking, fast because standing still made it worse. I went row to row, leaned down, checked under desks, behind monitor arms, behind those sad fake plants maintenance keeps dusting like they're real. I yanked open a supply cabinet hard enough to smack my knuckles. Pens and paper clips spilled. Nobody. I checked the printer area, the copy room, even the little wellness room HR pretends people use. Empty. I hit the bathrooms next. Both empty. I banged open stall doors. Mirrors showed my face blown out and pale, eyes too wide. I tried to laugh at myself, and it came out like a cough. Back in the kitchenette, I found a half-eaten sandwich on the counter. Fresh, warm in the middle like it hadn't been sitting there long. The bread still had that thumb squash mark. A bite missing, teeth cleaned through it. Whoever it was had been close enough to smell it. I dumped it in the trash, then stood there staring at my hand like I just touched something dead. My Slack popped, still here, from an account with no profile photo. I clicked it, and the name field read IT support, even though our IT guy was on vacation. I checked the channel list. No status, no away, just that message sitting there like a finger pointed at me. I typed, "Who is this?" and deleted it. I typed "stop" and deleted it. I didn't want to give whoever it was the comfort of knowing I'd bite. The office phone rang. My desk line. I stared at it ringing in the empty room like it had a pulse. I didn't answer. It rang twice, stopped, then rang again. My chest tightened because the phone only rings if someone dials that extension. That meant someone knew exactly where I sat. I grabbed my laptop bag by the strap like it was a club and moved toward where I'd heard the typing. It started again, softer now, like the person was trying to be quiet. It wasn't coming from one place. It felt like it slid around me as I moved, always just out of sight. I kept swinging my phone light and catching nothing but carpet and chair legs. I decided on the server closet because it was the only place with a reason for IT support to exist. I walked there fast, shoes squeaking, and saw the door cracked. That door stays locked. I shoved it open and the cold air hit my face. Fan screamed. Blue lights blinked. Someone had taped a small webcam to the inside of the door frame, pointed outward like a peephole for the hallway. I ripped it down and felt tape residue on my fingers. My stomach turned because it meant somebody watched me arrive, then waited. I checked the ceiling corners for more and found only the building cameras pointed the wrong way, high and lazy. This one was at face height. Personal. My Slack pinged again. Turn around. No typing buble. Just the words. I didn't turn. I backed out of the server closet instead, keeping the phone light ahead of me, like it could burn whatever was there. I bolted for the emergency stairwell. I hit the push bar. It didn't budge. I hit it again, harder, shoulder into it. Nothing. I angled my light down and saw a bike lock threaded through the bar and the rail, cinched tight. That takes planning. That takes time alone in here. I pulled until my wrists hurt. The metal didn't give. I ran to the other stairwell on the far side. Another lock. Different color. Same kind of cheap decision. I tried to be practical. I grabbed a heavy stapler off the nearest desk and smashed it against the lock over and over. Like I could brute force it. The stapler dented. The lock didn't. I grabbed a rolling chair and rammed it into the door. The chair snapped a wheel and skidded. The door stayed shut. All I did was make noise, and the noise didn't bring help. It just told whoever it was exactly where I stood. Somewhere nearby, a drawer slid open. Metal clinked. The typing stopped. Then I heard slow breathing, close enough that I couldn't pretend it was HVAC. I didn't see a face. I didn't see hands. Just that breathing, steady, patient, like someone counting seconds. I walked to the window instead and pressed my forehead to the glass. 30 floors up. No quick exit. Just city lights and my reflection shaking. I called building security and let it ring. Nobody picked up. I called again and again until my finger cramped. I tried calling a coworker who lived close, got voicemail, and my voice came out thin and stupid. I hung up mid-sentence and hated myself for begging. The desk phone rang again, then stopped, then rang again like it was enjoying the routine. My Slack pinged. Answer it. I threw my phone onto my desk, and it bounced, screen flashing, like I was trying to throw away the whole situation. The breathing moved. Not louder, just repositioned. A chair creaked somewhere behind me, slow and deliberate. I snapped and started yelling into the dark, telling whoever was to come out to stop being a fucking coward, to stop touching my shit. My voice came back thin off the glass. No answer. The silence felt like a grin. I needed noise that wasn't mine. I needed witnesses that weren't imaginary. I grabbed my laptop bag and whipped it through the glass door to the balcony, hard enough to slam the crash bar and trigger the alarm. I wanted noise. I wanted witnesses. I wanted anything but quiet. Siren screamed. Red strobes washed the cubicles like blood. I kept moving because standing still felt like offering myself up. Security arrived 5 minutes later and acted annoyed, like I'd pulled a prank. 2 guys, radios, keys, that bored posture like they'd rather be anywhere else. One stared at the balcony door and immediately went after me about damage and incident reports, like the only crime here was glass. I cut him off and dumped everything at once. Typing, the sandwich, the fake IT Slack, the desk phone, the webcam, the bike locks. He asked for my badge like I needed to prove I belonged on my own floor. I shoved it at him and told him to stop treating me like the problem. His partner asked if I was alone and if I'd pulled the alarm. I said yes, on purpose, because quiet was getting me killed. I dragged them to the stairwell locks. The annoyed one stopped chewing when he saw them. He tugged on the bike lock like it offended him. Then, like an asshole reflex, he asked if I did it. I laughed right in his face. It came out sharp and ugly. I told him to check the other door. Same thing. He finally started taking it seriously, but only because now it was his problem too. They searched and found nothing. They walked the rows slow, calling out like the person would politely respond. They checked bathrooms, conference rooms, under desks. I showed them the tape outline on the server door frame where the camera had been and the sticky grime on my fingers. The annoyed one shrugged and said it was probably a contractor. I told him contractors don't set peephole cams and lock exits. He said people do weird shit and asked if I had enemies, like this was high school. I demanded they pull camera footage right now. They said they couldn't access it from their handhelds, that building management had the system, that it would be tomorrow. I told them to call the cops. They told me I could call if I wanted, like I was ordering delivery. We argued in the middle of my office while the strobes painted their faces red, and then normal, and then red again, and they just stood there waiting for me to run out of anger. They shut the alarm off and the quiet slammed back in. The annoyed one said it looked clear, like that settled it. They started herding me toward the elevator like the goal was getting me off their hands. I refused to leave without my coat and keys. The annoyed one sighed like I was a child. His partner followed me back, but he stayed 2 steps behind like I was the shield. I went back to grab my coat and saw a sticky note on my monitor that wasn't there before. Don't stay late, bitch. No fingerprints. No camera footy. Just a note and the feeling of being watched while someone else decided when the game ended. I counted the cash drawer with my back to the front door because I kept hearing the handle test once every few minutes. Not yanking, testing, like someone timing me. The clinic sat in a strip mall and after hours felt wrong. Humming lights, dead silence, glass everywhere. Every other shop was dark. The parking lot lights flickered like they were tired. I should have never been alone. I'd bitched about it all week. The doctor left at 5. The other assistant dipped early. Management texted me some fake sweet reminder about locking the meds and not forgetting the deposit. Like the deposit mattered more than me walking to my car alive. I didn't answer. I just wanted to close and get out. The clicks at the front came in a rhythm. Click, pause, click, like he waited for the register drawer to close, for the sound of my keys, for me to move deeper in. I looked up through the front windows and saw a man standing right outside the glass, hands in his pockets, head tilted. He didn't wave. He didn't knock. He just watched me move. I could see my own reflection over him, and it made it worse, like I was watching myself get picked apart. I stepped sideways to see if he'd track me. He tracked me. I ducked low behind the counter like a kid and peeked again. He was still there, still in the same spot, like he'd decided the door was his and I was just something behind it. I thought about hitting the panic button we used for angry patients, then remembered it just rang the back office phone, and the back office phone was sitting on its cradle like a paperweight. I didn't open. I killed the lobby lights, turned the clinic into a dark box, and moved into the hallway like I was just finishing tasks. Another click hit the door handle, louder now, like he leaned in to listen for the latch. My phone showed 1 bar. I tried calling and it failed. I tried again and it failed again. The building ate signal. I went to the back to lock up because in my head the staff door felt safer than glass. I checked the deadbolt and tugged it hard. I listened for footsteps outside and heard nothing but wind pushing trash in the alley. The second I left the front, the back door rattled. Hard, not a test. A shake that made the frame jump. He'd moved fast. He'd circled like he knew the layout. I felt stupid for thinking I was being smart by leaving the lobby. He was already ahead of me. He started knocking on the back door, slow at first, then hard enough to shake the frame. I heard him breathe right on the metal, then heard a soft scraping sound at the lock like he'd brought tools. My stomach flipped. I dragged a rolling stool against the door, even though it wouldn't do shit, but my hands needed something to do. I grabbed the fire extinguisher off the wall and held it pointed at the door because I didn't have anything else. The scraping kept going. The deadbolt clicked once like it wanted to give. I tried 911 again, walking in little circles with my phone up over my head. Fail. I tried calling my manager anyway because people do desperate things. It went a voicemail like a slap. Then the lights cut. Not a flicker. Off. Whole clinic dark. My emergency lights didn't come on. The exit sign didn't glow. Someone had killed the breaker. The silence after the hum died made my ears ring. I could still hear him on the other side of the metal, breathing, waiting. It felt like he enjoyed the moment where my world went black. I walked to the breaker panel with my phone light and found it already open. Every switch flipped down. Clean. Deliberate. The panel wasn't by the back door. It was down the staff hall. Whoever did that either already got inside, or he'd been inside earlier and knew exactly where to go. I stared at the switches and had this dumb impulse to flip them back up, like light would fix everything. Then I pictured him seeing the hallway brighten and knowing exactly where to aim himself. Behind me, a drawer slid open in an exam room. Smooth, careful, like a hand, not a building settling. Then another little sound, softer like a cabinet door, easing shut. I didn't go look. I didn't say a word. I backed away from the panel with my phone, light, aimed down the hall. And I tried to listen past my own heartbeat. In the dark, the clinic stopped feeling like my workplace and started feeling like a maze I didn't design. I backed into the supply closet, locked it, then climbed onto a shelf because the floor suddenly felt like the worst place to be. I wedged my shoe against the door from the inside, useless but automatic. The metal shelf creaked under my weight. A box of gloves shifted and almost fell, and I caught it against my chest like it was a baby because the idea of making noise made me want to vomit. I tried texting anything, and my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You can stop hiding. Another buzz. I can hear you breathe. The words made my throat lock. I clamped my hand over my mouth and pressed my face into my sleeve. My heart hit my ribs so hard I thought it would carry through the door. I turned my phone brightness all the way down like that mattered, like he couldn't already smell fear. Footsteps moved through the hallway, slow, stopping at each door, like he enjoyed the hunt. He tested handles like he was checking fruit at a market. Click, pause, click. I heard him stop right outside the closet for a second, not touching it yet, just standing there. I could hear the little scrape of a shoe on tile like he shifted his weight. Then he kept moving. He went to another door, tested it, moved on, like he was making sure I stayed scared long enough before he came back. My mind kept grabbing at stupid details. The way the handle clicks sounded the same, whether it was the front or the back. The way he never slammed anything. The way he didn't say hello. He wasn't drunk. He wasn't lost. He was doing a job. The supply closet knob turned once. Twice. He didn't yank. He just tested, patient. The latch shifted a hair, and I saw the crack widen where the door didn't sit flush. I pulled the pin on the extinguisher and aimed at the seam, finger ready to squeeze until my hand cramped. I kept my other hand over my mouth until my lungs begged. Then I let myself take one tiny breath through my nose, slow, try not to whistle. The knob turned again. The latch started to slide. I sprayed the extinguisher through the crack the second it moved. White powder blasted his face. He cursed and stumbled back, choking, and the calm vanished. I heard his boots scrape hard, heard his hand hit the wall, heard him suck air like he was drowning. I slammed the door open into him and ran straight through the space he occupied, elbow first, because I wasn't waiting to find out what he had in his pockets. I felt my elbow hit something solid. I heard him grunt. A hand snagged my sleeve and slipped off because of the powder. I ran like my whole life was a hallway and the end of it was glass. He chased me toward the lobby. His footsteps got heavy, angry close. I sprinted for the front glass because at least the street had cameras. I fumbled with the keys, dropped them once, grabbed them, jammed the key into the lock, missed, tried again. Behind me, I heard him stop coughing and start breathing through his nose like he decided he wanted me more than he wanted air. Headlights swept the lot. Just a car passing, a wash of light, but it hit the lobby windows and threw brightness across the floor. He stopped short the moment that light touched him. I saw his outline for half a second, one hand wiping his face, the other half raised. And then he backed into the dark and disappeared like a roach when the kitchen light flips on. I got the front door open and ran out anyway, screaming into an empty parking lot. My voice came out cracked and ugly. A driver slowed, cracked their window, looked at me like I was insane. I yelled for them to call 911 and kept backing away from the building because I couldn't stand with my back to those doors anymore. Every shadow around the corners looked like him resetting for another try. When the cops showed up, they walked the halls with flashlights, found the breaker panel open, found extinguisher dust everywhere, and still acted like it was no big deal. One of them said it could have been kids, a prank, a vagrant, anything but what it was. They photographed the texts and asked me if I had drama with anyone. I wanted to ask if they'd say that to their own daughter. They didn't catch him. They didn't even sound like they believed me. The landlord showed up and got mad about the extinguisher mess and the breaker panel, like I'd vandalized his precious property. I snapped at him about cameras, and he snapped back about staffing, and the cop told us to calm down like we were arguing about rent. The landlord kept repeating that the back lock was new, like new locks can't be picked, like new locks stop a man who already knows where the breakers are. The next day, the landlord finally pulled footage. The clip he showed me wasn't from that night. It was from earlier that week during business hours. Same man. He walked into the clinic like he belonged there, drifted down the hall, paused at each door, then looked straight up into the camera and smiled. He'd been shopping for my routine. He just picked the night he wanted it. I locked the front door, flipped the sign to closed, and started stacking chairs because the owner trusted me to finish up. I hated that trust because it meant I was the last person in a building built for small bodies and loud days. The place went dead the second the last parent left, like somebody unplugged it. I stacked fast, metal legs clacking, trying to outrun the quiet, snapping lights off as I cleared each room so I could feel progress. The hallway motion light turned on behind me. I hadn't moved that way. I froze, then walked toward it because ignoring it felt worse. The sensor was by the cubbies. You had to cross the hall to trip it. I hadn't. I stood under the light and waited for it to time out. It didn't, like something kept feeding it movement. A toy made a sound in the toddler room. One of those electronic songs. The same 3 notes looping like it got stuck. It wasn't a random chirp. It was steady like a button held down. I tossed that toy into the fix later bin that morning after it drove everyone nuts. And that bin lived on the top shelf in the storage closet where kids couldn't reach. So it shouldn't have been on the floor at all. I pushed the door open and saw the toy pressed under a chair leg, pinned down. It didn't play by itself. Someone had shoved it there so it would keep squealing if the chair shifted. It was an adult chair, heavy. The toy was mashed sideways, speaker up, button trapped by pressure. Whoever did it wanted me to find it. I scanned the corners, under tables, behind the book rack, then checked the door behind me because my brain started picturing someone slipping in while I stared at the toy. Nothing moved. No cough, no shuffle, no whisper of fabric. My stomach flipped. That wasn't creepy. That was a trap for attention. I yanked the chair back and the song died so hard it felt like a hand over my mouth. I grabbed the toy, shook it once like it might explain itself, then tossed it into a bin with blocks. My hands went sweaty fast. I started checking rooms because standing still felt worse than moving. Bathrooms first. Stall doors kicked open, quick scan, empty. I checked behind the changing station and the little trash cans because I hated myself for knowing someone could crouch there. Closets next, yanked hard, slammed shut. Pantry, art closet, the cabinet with the kids' meds locked inside, the staff fridge. I kept talking in my head like a coach. Keep moving, keep moving. Nap room last. Tiny cots lined up, blankets folded. One cot had a fresh dent like someone sat on it, right at the edge. I pressed 2 fingers into the foam and it sprang back slow, like it had just been used. I grabbed my keys and headed for the staff exit because I wanted outside air more than answers. I shoved the crash bar. The crash bar didn't move. I shoved again, harder, then threw my shoulder into it until my collarbone stung. I dropped to one knee and saw the zip tie threaded through the hinge, cinched tight, tail trimmed clean. Not an accident. Somebody had to crouch there and do it, then snip the tail so it wouldn't catch on anything. I tried to saw it with my keys, then with the edge of my badge clip, then with a pin from my pocket like I could brute force plastic. It didn't budge. I ran to the front door. Deadbolt, locked from my side, but the key wouldn't turn like something pressed against it on the other side. I twisted until my wrist hurt. Heart stop every time. I tried pushing the door while turning. No give. I tried pulling the door tight to the frame while turning. Same. It felt like a wedge in the outside cylinder, just enough to block the turn. I leaned close to the glass and looked out for anything. Parked car, cigarette glow, a person pretending to check their phone. Just the lot and the street lights and my own face floating back at me. My phone rang once, then stopped. Unknown number. No voice made. Then it rang again. I didn't answer. I didn't want my voice out there. I silenced it and held it tight anyway, staring at my reflection because I couldn't stop imagining someone standing just out of sight, listening to the ringtone bounce around the lobby. The calls kept coming in short bursts, like someone was hitting redial just to remind me they could. Once it rang and stopped the second I reached for the screen like they knew. I called the owner, straight to voicemail. I texted her a photo of the zip tie with one line, door blocked. Call me. No reply. I thought about pulling the fire alarm to force a response, and then pictured her screaming about fines and paperwork and my paycheck evaporating. I hated that part of myself, the part that still worried about her. I moved to the office and locked myself in. I opened the security app. The cameras loaded, then one by one turned black. Hallway, toddler room, front door, clean and instant, not flickering, not buffering. Someone knew where the router sat. Someone had already touched it. I opened the bottom desk drawer and found the old walkie we used for playground days, dead battery. Of course, I heard a soft drag in the hallway. Not footsteps, something being pulled low along the floor. Pull, pause, slow like whoever had time. It moved past the office door, then slowed, then stopped right outside. I crouched and looked under the door and saw a shadow pass by, close enough to dim the light under the gap, then linger there like a body blocking it. Then I saw a hand slide a flat object toward the gap, like a credit card, like a blade. It scraped the floor and bumped my shoe. The edge tapped my toe twice, soft like knocking. I could see the knuckles, the wrist, the way the fingers spread to keep it flat. The hand wasn't trembling. It was patient. It wasn't trying to open the door. It was trying to touch me through it to let me know it could. I didn't scream. I got mad. I grabbed the metal hole punch and slammed it through the drywall beside the door, once, twice, again, loud enough to carry, making it sound like I'd fight dirty and I didn't care what I broke. Dust fell. I kicked the door once hard, then dragged the chair in the office across the floor so it shrieked, anything to make the building loud and ugly. The flat object snapped back out of sight. The dragging stopped. Silence came back, heavy. I stood there with the hole punch raised, listening for a laugh, listening for a footstep, listening for the motion light to click on again. Nothing. That scared me more than noise, because it meant whoever it was could wait longer than I could. I waited, then bolted. I unlocked the office and sprinted to the front windows and started hammering on the glass until a car slowed. I waved, mouthed help, pointed at the door, then banged harder. The driver stared, eyes wide, and for one stupid second I thought they'd call, or at least stop. Then they sped off like my fear was contagious. I grabbed a chair and slammed it into the window once. It thumped and held. I slammed again, not to break it, just to keep my arms moving so I didn't fold. I called 911 with my back to the glass, watching reflections like a shitty mirror. The unknown number kept lighting up my screen between my call attempts, like it was competing with me. I told dispatch the exits were blocked and the cameras went dead and I was alone. When police arrived, they found a zip tie on an exit bar and the router unplugged. They tried the front lock and couldn't turn it either, and that finally made their faces change from bored to annoyed. They walked the hall with flashlights, opened closets, checked bathrooms, did the same loop I'd already done. They found nothing else. They told me it was probably kids messing around. I argued. I couldn't stop myself. Kids don't trim zip ties clean, block a deadbolt from the outside, and kill cameras without leaving fingerprints in a mess. One cop asked why I didn't just wait outside. I pointed at the locked door and felt my voice go sharp. Another one told me to stop damaging property, like the drywall was the emergency. They left me with a report number and that polite shrug they use when they want you to stop talking. I walked back inside to get my coat and stepped into something wet near the toddler room. My shoe slid half an inch and my stomach dropped. I looked down and saw small footprints on the tile, leading toward the stored closet. Bare feet, not child size, just tight, narrow prints, smeared like someone walked in socks soaked in something and then peeled them off. The trail went in a straight line, careful, heel to toe, not hurried. It stopped right at the closet door. That building smelled like crayons and disinfectant. Those prints smelled like sweat and old pennies. The smell hit me hard and metallic, like licking a battery. I took a photo because I needed proof more than I needed comfort. I tried to show one of the cops before they left, and he barely looked, just said it could be water, and kept walking. I didn't open the closet. I didn't touch anything. I just grabbed my coat and walked out with my keys clenched like they were a knife, checking over my shoulder the whole way to my car. I quit the next morning. The owner called me dramatic. I didn't argue. I just blocked her number and kept the photo of those footprints because I needed proof that I wasn't crazy, just alone with the wrong person.